Hi, everyone. This is Jillian Sidoti. I'm joined by Nate Dodson. This is Entrepreneur, where we give you business advice that you never asked for. Some of you
That
actually
makes it
did.
all the more fun.
Yeah, some of you did ask for it. That's how we got these questions in the first place, because you did ask for business advice. But perhaps you're tuning in and you didn't ask any of these questions. Well, that's okay, because you can ask your questions by putting them in the comments below. And don't hesitate to put your comments below, even if you're not watching this live, because we'll pick up those comments later and answer them on a future episode. So let's get started. Nate, how are you doing today?
Life is absolutely wonderful. I'm happy to make it through the week, and I'm happy that all my technology is working. Sorry, everybody, for being a couple minutes late. As Puerto Rico technology kicks in again, as you know, it's a lot of fun. When you get started, it's time to go. And I just see Jillian running
I, you
all
know,
over the place. Fix this, fix this. Does it work? Can you hear me?
and just in a panic. Yeah, how am I gonna solve these problems? It's funny you say that though. I don't even know if I can blame Puerto Rico on this one. I think I have to blame Google, and I have to take some responsibility because my Google Mesh system is probably about 4 or 5 years old now, and it's just run its course. So it's over. Sorry, Google Mesh. I'm moving on. I'm moving on to anything except Google Mesh, and we'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna plug what I'm moving on to yet because let's see if it works.
Good call. Well,
So, all
Starlink
right, Nate, what's
does
our
seem
first
to
question?
connect.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'm correct. I'm connected straight to Starlink right now. The router is right there. That's why I have a different background, because I'm actually in my room where the modem is, and I'm connected directly to that instead of trying to do all kinds of crazy things in my own office. So, it's
Love
fine.
it.
It works. I got my trusty microphone, got my laptop. It's gonna work for us. All right, let's get to our first question.
Sure. Would you like to ask or shall I?
If you don't mind, I would love to take the first question today. Is that
You
okay?
got it. All right. When
All
you're
right.
starting your business, you're scaling, but you know what? You are not on an island by yourself. There's competition. So let's talk a little bit about
Mm,
growing, expanding, and how to deal with competition. How do you handle competition
that's
in
a
your
really
market?
good question. Yeah, I love that question, and because I'm actually I'm gonna answer it a different way on how to deal with competition. Is sometimes your competition can be your greatest friend. They're not necessarily your enemy, and the way I would explain it is like this. If you have a business that does something particularly, and I don't know why I'm thinking of dog groomers, but I'm going to use dog groomers as an example. If you're a dog groomer and you don't take large breed dogs because you just can't handle them or whatever, and you can make friends with some competition perhaps who takes those types of breeds, so that when people come to you with that breed, you can say, hey, I have a friend who does that, let me introduce you to them. You're helping your community, you're putting good karma out there, right? But not only are you putting good karma out there, you're opening the door for other people to return, perhaps return the favor. Now that's all not always going to be the case. Your competition is still your competition. But if you're niche enough, and you have a specific audience, and you're finding that you're getting business for another tangential or closely related product or service or what have you, then you can make great friends with like-minded individuals in the space, and refer business back and forth to each other, perhaps make some referral fees. And that's when you're making money without doing a whole lot, without just, by just doing a good deed, you can really, still make some money, and by helping your competition. With that being said, also you want to be mindful of, I think the thing for me every time I've gone into businesses, how can I do something better than my competition? And then, the temptation there is to brag about how much you're better than your competition, but what you really want to do is to let your product or service show how it's better so that you have other people talking about how you're better than your competition. So but I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this, because you're in a very dog eat dog business and multiple businesses too.
And let me start way back, like when I was in college and studying economics, because it really comes down to two different things. You're either competing on service or you're competing on pricing. And really,
Yeah.
to reflect on the legal industry, you have the least cost operators. Maybe they're using paralegals. Maybe they just have some software automations that they kick out documents in a matter of minutes versus the hours and hours that we spent. The least cost operator, you can always go for the lowest price. I don't really like competing on that. If somebody wants to be the least cost operator, have fun. I've got the market that I target. It is really all about the service and the experience of the customers. And fortunately, I'm in a really horrible industry when it comes to customer service. Nobody likes dealing with the lawyers or the law firms. And you always hear complaints about, I called, I never heard back. Really, that's where
Oh,
I want all of my
that was how
businesses
I
to
picked up so
stand.
much business when I was practicing. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. So I really, my biggest focus is on the level of service. I've got a motto in the business, in every business that I'm involved with. We should always be providing that Michelin star level service. And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is everybody can get a good meal someplace. Everybody can get a good legal doc anywhere. But what really makes these few, the select best restaurants in the world, stand out is because their attention to detail and the level of care and service that their customers receive. And personally, I have the exact same expectation that our businesses are doing the exact same thing to meet those beyond expectations of our customers. Somehow I found that
Yeah. And you know,
competitively, we stand on everybody's shoulders.
no, I couldn't agree more. And the other thing you say about that is like, and the older I get, the more I'm like, I will gravitate away, or I guess it's not float away. I don't know. What's the opposite of gravity?
Anti-gravity?
You know that? I don't know.
Anti-gravity?
But you won't say I won't anti-gravitate away. I will, or I won't anti-gravitate towards. I'm gonna leave this one. I'm gonna say I won't be attracted to the lowest price in almost anything these days. I don't trust the lowest price. And what I mean by that is Spirit Airlines. You know,
The
you can't
worst.
trust them. You might get there. You're probably not going to get there on time, and you're certainly not going to have a pleasant experience, right? The other thing that I think about is the thing that always gets me. This is the thing that always gets me. Rental car companies. Okay. I want you guys to think about this. This is a hot travel tip, actually. So we've gone beyond business and into hot travel tips. Um, if I go online to get a rental car, I always find that if you buy the lowest cost car, like just say you're looking for an economy car, you just need something to get you from A to B. Don't, but you know, and they're like, one's $56.92 and the next price is $60 a day or what have you. Pay the $60 a day. And here's why. You get off the plane and you go to the rental car counter. Which line is going to be the longest? It's going to be the one that offered the cheapest cars. So what you say, that $3 a day you saved, you're going to waste standing in line waiting for that rental car. my advice is, always look for what's the second cheapest, not necessarily the cheapest. There's very few things in the world these days, I find, uh, that where the cheapest is the best.
I'd like to actually dive a little bit deeper into that pricing and how it affects competition. And we talked a little bit
Yeah.
about the least cost operators. There's an economic concept called pricing elasticity. How much can you move the prices before it starts affecting demand? We've really seen this lately in the grocery stores and with a lot of the staples because they're just pushing the pricing. That's where we are getting a lot of this inflation, pushing the pricing as much as possible. It's really helping the bottom line profits, but it's because those prices are inelastic, meaning, well, where's it elastic? Whatever it is. They can raise the price, it's not affecting demand. However, the flip side of that is if you change the pricing, it has a huge modification of demand. And when we talk about the Spirit Airlines, the least cost operators, they're focused on the price, not the service. They're giving up on that. But with the price competition, you're always risking somebody else is going to come in lower and cheaper. And now they're the least cost operators. Because of the price elasticity, there's a better chance that they're going to take away the business from the least cost operator, that dock factory in the legal industry as an example. So that's part of the reason why competing on price, not necessarily the best approach.
No, no. I agree. So I mean, at the end of the day, the most important thing with pricing, I mean, I know this question originally started about competition and how to, how to handle competition in your market. At the end of the day, what you really want to do is really figure out where your pricing makes the most sense for you, right? As the provider. And if you can't figure that out from the perspective of uh I don't know what the best price is for my customer, because, like, I mean, you and I've seen this all the time when in practicing law, in terms of I'll switch it up a little bit in terms of return on investment to investors, right? So all the time we have clients who would say to us, I'm going to offer a 10 to 12% return on investment. And you'd say, okay, and how are you justifying that? And they're like, well, that's just what I think the investors want. Well, that does that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the investors
I
want if
think
you can't pay it. If your investment opportunity only pays 9% return on investment and you're offering 10 to 12, well, you're up a creek, right? So this is the same with pricing. Like, if you offer to your clients, yeah, I'll install that carburetor for $200, and it costs your labor is a whole entire day to install the carburetor. I don't know anything about cars, by the way. If your whole day is to install the carburetor, then that might not be worth it for you, right? You might be spending more time and money than you're actually making. So you have to sit down and figure these things out, and that's the best pricing model for you. And that's how you deal with competition, is that you start with the most, you know, what pricing model is gonna put your mind at ease, and your budget at ease. Like, where is that 30 to 40%, that's what we like to make, at least Nate and I. Where's that
it's
30,
a good goal.
40% profit margin? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That 30, 40% profit margin. If you're if and by the way, that's what Nate and I are comfortable with. I want to make 30 to 40% on a business in profit margin, in order for it to be worth my while. If it's not making that kind of money, then I'm not interested in pursuing it. It's not worth the risk for me. You might have a greater risk tolerance. You might say a 10% profit margin is all I need, or a 25% profit margin is all I need. But that's one way to, like, put that, like, where you just say my competition doesn't matter. What I do, how I do it, etc., is what matters to me.
Can I give you a real live example. What was it called when we're given like a fact pattern in law school and they're like, figure this out? What is that called? I forget.
Oh,
Doesn't matter.
okay,
So
so far we need the audience to help us find out the opposite of gravity and what a fact pattern, how to,
please
you know,
drop it in
I know
chat. We need
exactly
to
what you
know
mean.
too.
Yeah, exactly. Any lawyers out there or recent law school graduates who might know what that was called.
But here's
I
the
just
fact
remember
pattern.
IROC, issue rule. Okay. Here's our issue. What's our
IRAC,
rule? What's
issue, rule,
our IROC
analysis, conclusion. I only know
analysis?
this because my lovely
Yeah.
wife is studying for the California bar right now.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, good luck to her. That's awesome.
But let
All
me
right,
give
go
you the
ahead.
fact
Go for it.
pattern. And this is a live,
Mhm.
real-time fact pattern because I literally have guys outside hanging our holiday lights. They come
Oh,
around once a
okay.
year.
Send them to my
We've
house
been
when they're
doing,
done.
yeah. So if I keep looking over, it's because like, what are they doing out there? So, but they just open once a year for the season. How would you go about? I'm starting a light business. It's seasonal. How do I price it? What exercises and process would you go through to figure that out?
Oh, I would do this. I would do this twofold. I would start marketing my business, and I would not only would I start marketing my business, I would also get my market research at the same time, right? Okay, so here it goes. You start in like mid-October and you say to people, "Hey everyone, you go to your local Facebook group, wherever your market is, because obviously you're not going to be installing Christmas lights, countrywide. Maybe eventually you can, franchise this type of business out, which actually I think would be a really easy thing to do. But I would start with your local market wherever you are and go on your local neighborhood Facebook page or town Facebook page. We all have them. Where are you in Dallas specifically? Is that where you live?
I am. Yep, sure am.
Okay. So there's probably like Friends of Dallas or to Dallas Community Facebook group, right? Go on there and people love to give their opinions. And you're going to do two different things. The first thing you're going to do is go, "Hey, we're thinking about starting a seasonal Christmas light hanging business. I'm wondering, what would you be willing to pay for such a service?" Let and then like see how open-ended that question is. Like it's super open-ended because right now people are going to start asking questions or they're going to start inferring facts that you did not give, right? So which by the way, you never infer facts that were not given in a law school fact pattern, by the way. I'm sure Nate and I both learned that the hard way at some point in law school. So
Oh, long ago.
yeah. So what you so what you're gonna do is and then you're just gonna let people start talking amongst themselves. "Oh my God, I've been looking for a service like you. I'd be willing to pay $300 for you to install them, but you have to come out back and take them down." Right. And then you're gonna get so much market research because you didn't put them in a box. You didn't say, "Let's assume you have a 2,000 square foot home and only one story." You literally so you're gonna let them fly. And people in community Facebook book groups love to give their opinion. They love finding little gems like this, like things that people don't know about yet. They want to be the first one to hire you. So this is how you're going to get all that information, right? And then once you get that, uh, I did this just recently on my own Facebook page. I I have this pool here in Puerto Rico. My husband spends hours upon hours per week. I mean, he probably spends 2 hours a day keeping that pool clean and sparkling, and it's not used enough. And so we decided we're going to start renting it out. and we're going to brand it and everything. And so I went on Facebook. I did this just this week, and you can look on my Facebook page. And I don't have a lot of all my friends are all over the place, so my market is limited on my own Facebook page, but I could have done this in the community group. And so I asked on my Facebook page, here are our 4 logos. First, I asked them all, what should we call our pool? And everybody had an opinion. Everybody gave us an opinion. And that was great. That was helpful. Then after they all gave us an opinion, I went on my Facebook page and said, we picked our name. Thank you so much, everybody, for helping us. Now I need help picking the logo. And I gave them 4 logos. Now I already had my favorite. I already knew which one I was probably going to pick, but I did it anyhow because it's getting interest. People are becoming early investors. It's not money investment, but they're becoming psychologically invested early in your business before it even starts, by you allowing them to shape your business. And so once you ask them the question about how much is it going to cost, the way you can still get in front of these people without asking them for anything more than their opinion is then go out there and say, now we've picked our price point. We're almost ready to go, but we need your help with our logo. And then you can go out and ask people what they think of your logo.
So in summary, in a matter of 2 words, client interviews or prospect interviews, polls.
You don't even know what it is, and it doesn't even matter.
Exactly. Second option, and this is something that I know that we deal with as well as do, secret shoppers. You have your avatar, you have your competition. In most industries, we'll stay with the holiday hangers. Maybe there's 10, 20 competitors in the Dallas market. I have no clue, but just guessing. Well, you know what? If I was starting a holiday light business, I'd pick up and just start talking to them. How do you price? What do you consider? How does this work?
Yeah.
And I talk to every last one of them. So definitely, I mean, I know we're secret shopped all the time because people want to know what we're doing. And every year or 2, we'll do the same because we know we want to be at market, and knowing what everybody else is doing just helps.
Let me ask you something about that, Nate, because how do you know? I know you say you're being, or it happens. How do you know when it's happening? Do you have an idea of when it's happening?
Sometimes, but not always. If get a consultation and they're asking about weird alternatives that would never actually occur, I know they're trying to figure out how we would price, what we would do. So that's one tell. Another tell is, well, everybody has a very specific need, but if I'm asking about everything, hey, can I see your entire pricing schedule? That's another tell. The way that I'm able to tell the best is actually because we work with so many people that are interviewing multiple attorneys. I hear from them what these other attorneys are pitching because I ask that prospect or client interviews and hear what they say and how they're positioning themselves to get the business. And I can see that they've considered what we're doing and trying to add that little tweak so they have their own sales strategy.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I would say, for anybody who's going to go out and secret shop, yeah, that last part you said right there is so important. It's that you really want to make sure that you know where you can add your tweak. What is it that you can do better? And for me, what I would say for something like, let's just talk about the Christmas tree hanging people, is how easy can you make it for a potential client to say yes, right? And for the Christmas tree hanger, or for any kind of service, lower ticket service type of person, it's real simple. can they go to the website and see what you have to offer, click on it, and schedule an appointment? Can they chat? Is there a chat bot on your website? Is there a messenger function on your Facebook page? Do you have WhatsApp available for people to just send you a message or call you? And if you make all of these channels, and they can all, like, I don't know, what is it, ManyChat, that can tie them all together or something like that. You can get them to tie all together. And if you can get that kind of customer service going, or and at least have that line of communication. If you can't let them make an appointment online, at least you can have that, direct communication, so that they can send you a message at 2 in the morning when they're thinking, oh my God, I got to get my Christmas lights up. I better make an appointment. Right. Because that's,
And I feel like this
that
topic
might
that
have
you're
been
bringing
personal.
up, yeah, well, the topic that you're
Yeah.
bringing up is probably 3 hours worth of discussion. You're talking about funnels. How do you take the general public or your prospects and bring them down to an actual sale or them becoming a client? So that's a
Yeah.
huge area. But
It sure
yeah,
is. It sure is. I mean, yeah, and then, I mean, I just love, like, I love these simple, boring business models of Christmas tree lights, and then, what are they doing after the Christmas season is the question, right? Are they landscaping? Are they cleaning gutters? Like, springtime, is gutter cleaning time. I don't know what kind of gutters you guys have, and we don't really have gutters here, so, um, that wouldn't necessarily be a thing, but definitely landscaping would be a thing. What are those other outdoor activities you could be doing, during the, the 9 months out of the rest of the year, right? Because that's probably like a 3-month business operation, I would imagine.
yeah. I mean, realistically, and I love this, we talk about multiple streams of income for an entrepreneur. Great. They've got a
Mm,
seasonal business that's literally going to shut down every single year. There's no more customers. The holidays are over. But you know what? Maybe
mhm,
they are
mhm.
doing the landscaping, which doesn't kick in around here until spring. Or they have
Right.
some other outdoors, more recreational business or work, renting boats that you don't really do during the cold months. It really kicks in when it starts to warm up past the holidays. So, really, exactly what we're talking about, that starts to create these multiple streams of income that at the end of the day should be all of our goals.
Oh, you should go run outside and tell your Christmas tree guys to do an inflatable business, because that's what they could do during the summer, rent inflatables and go set up inflatables, bounce houses and stuff.
I love it. There's actually a 30-foot snowman right down my street. So I think you're onto something. I'm totally going to tell them that.
Yeah,
Oh, I
kids'
love
birthday
it.
parties, bounce houses. I mean, yeah, yeah. So, all right, it's your turn for a question. I mean, that was the world's longest question that went on all over the place.
Yeah, just a
Uh,
half hour. No,
how
no big deal.
about for you? What, I know we spent a half hour on one question. What tools can help manage a startup effectively?
Let's see. What are the most important operations, communications, both with your team as well as prospects and actual clients? I would always start there in determining what tools and systems can be put in place to really be able to scale your business. And I'll give you some of our internal processes. Like we either, and I use different services for different businesses. Like there's no, this is the only answer. In some businesses, I
Mhm.
use Slack for internal team messaging. In others, Microsoft Teams. And it just comes down to some people prefer this versus that. So internally, I think that is you have to have a tool like that so you can share with everybody. For your actual clients, that's where, well, the CRM started before that, but your client relations manager, CRM. That's a great way to be able to mass communicate, but also track communications. Because, I've got about 40 people now that work for my businesses. And you know what? When something gets communicated, it's by one person, but it affects everybody. And so by leveraging a CRM, it tracks the communication so you know what the deal was that was actually sent to a client. Similarly with prospective clients, I think the CRM for outward communications is one of the most important things in the world. And then the last component is with the prospective clients beyond the CRM. Make sure that you get to be really good at social media. And there were tools there to be able to scale the amount of content, the amount of information that you're able to cast this wide net to communicate with people. And in terms of that, there are posting platforms like Hootsuite. You can just create your list of this is all I'm trying to communicate, and then it'll automate it. So those are kind of the three big areas when it comes down to communications that I would definitely 100% make sure that I've got tools to scale. What do you think?
I do have a question for you about Hootsuite. This is kind of, a tangent, but do you find, I just personally stopped using any of those posting,
Mhm.
I know they're a necessary evil, but I stopped using a lot of those posting software type things, mostly because I found them to be somewhat ineffective. Because what I find is like the social media platforms don't like them, so
Yep.
they squish down.
There's this unknown, unseen thing called the algorithm that you need to be best friends with, but you don't really understand it. And don't worry, nobody does. But it does affect like leveraging these posting softwares such as Hootsuite, and there's 1,000 of them out there. That's one of the larger ones, but HubSpot will do it. Lots of these will do it, but it's not a mystery that we do a lot of social media, and we don't use one at all either. So in full agreement with Jillian, the algorithm doesn't like it. The algorithm also doesn't like the VAs, your international assistants, posting on social media, because the algorithm sees that it's an international post. It's not really personal. So, we have a larger marketing team. So I have somebody that specifically posts. However, who we're communicating with today, they're just getting things started. They're scaling. They got their side hustle. Congratulations for everybody out there swinging the bat. You got to be able to scale, and they are great tools to get things rolling. But as your business grows and expands, your marketing team grows and expands, that's one of those, important for scaling. Get rid of it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Get rid of it as soon as possible. That is such a great point. I agree. Now, I wanted to ask you about Microsoft Teams, and this is again getting kind of like in the weeds, so we'll get off this quickly. But Microsoft Teams, find I find it to be particularly slow. I know we used it at the law firm. That was our internal communication mode, but that and Skype, I don't know if anybody really uses Skype anymore. I found them to start becoming a bit bloated.
Well, I think the Skype is a software for the ages. I'm amazed that you remembered it or actually brought it up. Personally, I like Slack, but it is almost like, do you like green or do you like red? It's a true personal preference because it does the exact same thing. And as an example, when I acquired your law firm, we had different systems. One was Slack, the other was Teams. And at some point we were running them both, but it was like, okay, guys, this is getting confusing. let's take a vote. What do you like best? And at least in the law firm,
Oh,
Slack won, and so that's the only thing we leverage anymore.
yeah. I mean, Slack would have won for me too. I mean, the reason why we were using Teams is because we were trying to stay all in one ecosystem. So, in other words, we used, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Server, Microsoft Teams, and they all integrated with each other. That was the logic behind that.
How'd it work out for you?
And I mean, it worked out fine. I would say worked out. It worked. It wasn't that it didn't work. Um, I again didn't love Teams. I enjoyed being in one ecosystem. But I was somebody who was used to using Gmail as opposed to Outlook. So that was something I guess I didn't. Although I think Outlook's probably better from a user's point of view. Overall, I think Outlook's more robust, but I'm so used to using Gmail that's just what I use. So
I think
I
it's
don't know.
interesting.
I don't
So
have
I
a good
actually
answer for you.
wanted to debate you on this because I
Okay.
knew that was going to be your
All
answer.
right.
You were moving everything towards Microsoft, and where you
Yeah.
started was different. And I've
Right.
always gone with kind of your origination of get the best softwares and make sure that they
Yeah.
seamlessly connect and work together. Because
Yeah.
Microsoft is
Yeah.
great, but they're the big monster that does everything, and you're subject to their limitations, their bloat. Where you can go
Yeah.
out and find different systems, different ecosystems. But if you have something, and you had this in the past, something like a CRM of Podio, or a platform that allows all of the other different components, technologies to all plug in so that you can have that robust Microsoft style. You can do anything while still being able to leverage the best options versus the only option within that ecosystem.
Yeah. No, I
Uh,
agree.
it's
Yeah, I agree with
I
everything you just said.
I totally got just the light bulb went off because another really great example of this, and there's no wrong answer. There are two very large practice management software companies in the legal industry. One is called MyCase, and they have vertically integrated. MyCase owns everything that they offer, but you get in there and everything you possibly could need, they have that service, but you're stuck with their service. An
Yeah.
alternative company is its name is Clio. Clio does not have all of these additional components, technology, and services, but they seamlessly plug in with all the other technology that does. And so this is a really like an actual live example of the two biggest players have taken completely different paths based on exactly what we're talking about. One vertically integrating everything, the other saying, we do what we do well, but we don't do everything the best. We want to be able to plug in the best components. So at least that's a
Mhm.
real industry example of there's no right answer. There's just a debate and a direction.
Yeah, and also there's preference, right? And what works for you. I mean, we went through so many CRMs when I was practicing law because practicing securities law is vastly different than practicing the law where, I feel like we tried Clio at one point in time for the securities law firm. It doesn't work because you just don't have the same. First of all, we didn't have any billable hours, so there was
Mhm.
that. And second of all, we didn't have there was we had deadlines for sure as a securities law firm, but they weren't the same.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, we didn't have paralegals or anything like that. So really what made more sense for us was like a project management type of software. with automations built in. And so that's what we ended up building out through a system called Podio. And because Podio is like just one of those blank slates. For me, what I'm enjoying using right now is a tool called High Level. And you and I use High Level in one of the businesses we work on. I'm still not completely familiar with it, but I do like how that works, and it's pretty cheap compared to like, I know you use HubSpot. I've used HubSpot before, but to me, HubSpot gets expensive very quickly.
I think we're spending about $1,500 a month versus High Level. That's $199 or whatever it
Oh
may
my
be, even less than that.
God. Holy
We
crap.
have a pretty
Pitiful.
comprehensive CRM system, but interestingly enough,
Sure.
we're talking about that as kind of that marketing, the front end of the communications, but also anytime we're interacting with prospects or clients. But once somebody becomes a client,
Hmm.
we actually manage everything through MyCase and the practice
Yeah.
management system, mainly because it works with accounting. It works with, we do
Wow.
more than just security. So it works with these other areas so that we can create these practice groups and separately but cohesively be able to manage all these different divisions. So kind of a
Mm,
differentiation between the technology systems.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
So
And so do you use my case for the securities law firm, or do you use that for the other law firm?
we use it for the securities as well, but we use HubSpot for the
Oh,
outward
wow. Okay. Very cool.
communications. We use MyCase for the actual client's billing transaction, kind of the maintenance of everything other than just kind of the marketing or the mass communications all happens through MyCase. And
Mm,
then just because it also works with billing, invoicing, QuickBooks. So it really is a good place, a hub to bring the internal management operations together. And that's just an example of something that works in the legal industry that doesn't apply to the holiday light hanging, but it really just comes down to what's your business, what's your system and operations, and making sure you're picking the right technology to fill your needs and they be scalable. So,
wow. That's awesome.
all right,
Awesome. Awesome.
uh,
All right.
I got a difficult question for you.
Let's
Well, the answer is
Oh, you
really
do. Okay.
easy, but how we get there is so much more difficult. What is the
Uh,
importance of work-life balance for entrepreneurs?
oh, it's so
Easy
funny
answer.
because I was thinking that you would be better at answering this because you seem to be really good at this. And I asked you that question. Um, for me, I was really bad at work-life balance, especially initially. And just to give you all an idea of how terrible I was at work-life balance, I was at work 5 days after I had my third child. So,
That
yeah,
is from
I
the
don't
hospital
really.
bed almost.
Yeah. Oh, you know what's even worse than that? Oh my God. I'm gonna have to pay for therapy for my oldest. My oldest, when he was born with pneumonia. Now we didn't know this within the first 48 hours of life because they needed to do like an x-ray to actually find it. So what happened is he was born, I was in the hospital for 2 days. The pediatrician came in and he, checks him and he goes, I don't like the way he sounds. I'm gonna order a chest X-ray. And so he orders a chest X-ray and finds out that he has pneumonia and he has to be transported to the Children's Hospital down in San Diego. And I had a client who would not stop bothering me I had to make a wire. So I literally left the hospital and made the wire and then went back to the hospital And that was,
That sounds horrible.
I'm
That
getting
is
up here.
bad work-life balance, but I get it.
That is not what you want to do. But listen, I learned some very valuable lessons. I mean, I remember I know what my breaking point was. Unfortunately, my breaking point didn't come until many, many years later, which was um I think it was like 2018 or 2019, and it was summer vacation, and my kids were in my conference room, and they were watching YouTube videos at 10 o'clock at night while I was working on a client um, document. And we left at 10 o'clock at night. And my kids thought it was so great to be like walking out in the parking lot where it was super dark and spooky, and we were the only ones in this office building. And I just remember thinking, this is your summer vacation. This is not what we're supposed to be doing. And that's when I learned that I needed to make a change. I needed to go on a vacation without a laptop, for example, or I needed to put my cell phone away during dinner time. Which actually
Okay.
I've always been pretty good at, but there's there's been many a times I've excused myself from the table to take a phone call. So those I think it's really about understanding what you're supposed to be in the present moment. Like, what am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be right now? How am I supposed to show up right now? And that's not because you're showing up for everybody else, but because that's the way you wanna show up. So, like, at family dinner time, do I wanna show up as Jillian the lawyer, or do I wanna show up as Jillian the mom? And I really had to start making I had to start making those very conscious choices.
Love it. So I actually think as anyone is starting, growing, and building their business, work-life balance is almost impossible for one big reason. You're working in the business. It's not until
Mhm.
you've gone through the working on the business part, systematizing to scale beyond what you can ever accomplish working in the business as that technician yourself. That work-life balance of you are chained to your business. If you're not working, the business isn't working. You still have to do
No.
the work, but also you have to manage, you
Yeah.
have to grow, you have to scale.
Yep.
I unfortunately had over a decade of these 24-hour working lifestyles right up until that breaking point. But my God, it really made a difference. And a part of it is to lead by example, doing more than what the
Yeah.
team is, because I want you to see I'm taking this seriously and making it happen. So that goes back to, I just think that work-life balance for anybody that's out there hustling and making it happen in the early stages, almost impossible to do, but oh, so very important to do. But as you grow and you have things scaled, then you can just plug and play what you have into other areas to be able to start taking a step back. And Jillian, you were referencing the 30-40% profit margins. And if you're doing all the work, it may be a 50 to 60% profit margin, or you start hiring people that do
Right.
some of the work, but you're the technician, you have administrative support. Now your profit margin may have fallen to that 30 to 40%. But honestly, what my
Yeah.
target is 20 to 30%, because that means that I've hired people to administer, I've hired people to do the work. And now
Yep.
I have that work-life balance, but not just the work-life balance, but the scalability to go so much farther and grow so much bigger than I could ever do with the hands-on,
Mhm.
trying to make it all happen. Like it's a better way to do it. But now instead of making 60%, I'm making 20%, but the business is 10 times the size. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because 'cause you're just making that much more money.
That does come
Yeah.
back to, I think, a great book that every entrepreneur should read if you haven't already, The E-Myth. And it is all about working in your business to start, but the process and the thoughts and what you do to work on the business to eventually turn into that true entrepreneur of, I'm here to manage. I'm not here to actually get in there and do. So definitely recommend everybody read the E-Myth, letter E dash myth.
Very first business book I ever read. Very, very first one. Changed the way I viewed my business completely. I became obsessed. So yeah, it's still a good book today is E-Myth. With that being said, you know, in business, on business, one of the best pieces of advice I ever received from my friend Jeff was if you really want your business to run right and you want to understand how your business works completely, then the best thing to do is to learn every aspect of business every aspect of your business as quickly as possible. Just learn it. Like you might not be an expert on it, but just learn, like do some intense working on it. For example, social media. You might be terrible at social media, but you should like totally dedicate yourself to a moment of working on your social media to see, like really understand what works, what looks good, what doesn't look good. And then you can hire out to somebody else to do it for you, because you're not going to work that job forever. It's just temporary so that you can understand every aspect of your business. And I bet money, like people like Richard Branson, um, and other, famous entrepreneurs who've started from the ground up. I bet money they've all done this. They've learned the insides and outs of their entire business, um, in order to be able to understand it and run it better.
So I really wonder if Richard Branson is a good example of that because he's a visionary. He's the guy that says, I'm
Yeah,
going to
he
try
really
to
is.
do like the Elon Musks of the world of I'm going to try to do something that is unbelievable. Most would see it as impossible,
Right.
but I know how to creatively hit those goals. And there's very few people, but I give Richard
Right.
Branson, Elon Musk, they get the accolades for what they've accomplished. You don't have to be
Yeah, and
those
that's
people to be
yeah.
successful. I
That's the
think
thing
that
about
honestly,
like Elon Musk. Yeah.
we must have a
Sorry,
delay.
I
We're
totally
talking
stepped
over
right on
each
top
other
of
like funny. It's great.
it. Yeah, sorry about
You go.
that. Well, it's funny you mentioned Elon Musk. The thing I watched about Elon Musk, particularly with his acquisition of X, was, Elon Musk actually will straight up tell you he creates very little because he goes out and acquires, right? He's like an acquirer, and then he understands what he wants for that acquisition. Like he sees a vision for the acquisition he's making that the people who were in the actual company itself that he's buying it from didn't understand the potential of that business. Same with Tesla, right? Tesla he acquired, and built it to what it is today. And through Tesla, he acquired like solar companies like Solar City and stuff like that, and then rebranded them all Tesla. Um, so with that being said, the thing about Elon Musk, what I saw an interview with him about X, and he went in and he learned every aspect of X, and that's how he ended up knowing what he could get rid of. Like, I can slash here, I can cut down 80% of the workforce because you're not producing anything. This can be done. I can see what you're doing. I've learned what you're doing, and we can go. We don't have to go A to H. We can go A to B. Let's cut out B through H, and that's what he did. So yeah, no, you're not going to be an expert. Like that's not the idea. The idea is to just have a cursory enough of an understanding of it to so that when somebody's selling you a service, for example, like a social media manager is selling you a service, you could have a fundamental understanding of what they're talking about.
And I think that's so important for everything to have that base level of knowledge because you hire a team member and they're supposed
Mhm.
to dig in, become the expert, be able to run whatever
Right.
that is. But you know what? If they're not doing it right, you have to at least have the knowledge to say, okay, well, I've identified that this is a problem and here's an area, please focus on it. Make sure that it's working well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So,
That's real.
I love that you brought up kind of the acquisition model of Elon Musk. I really want to do this next time. I've done deep dives into like Amazon, and Amazon is, you know, a massive company today, but people don't realize that it grew from about 140 different acquisitions since it got started in the mid 90s. So talking about
Mhm.
that model, I would love to do sometime very soon.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. We should talk about that because you actually are more of an expert on that than I am, for sure.
Oh, it's the fun part of everything. Go buy something, figure it out, integrate it, do it again. Create those multiple streams of income.
Yeah, and it's so funny because we probably could come up with a bunch of names of companies you've heard of, and then you'll pause and you'll go, "Yeah, whatever did happen to that company?" And you'll find out, oh, it was acquired by this other company you've definitely heard of, right? So, like Amazon, for example.
You know, there's less publicly listed companies today than there was in the 80s. They're
No
dropping off
way.
because
For
of
real?
through acquisitions. Yep. Even though you're seeing new stuff getting IPO'd and this and that, with the number of acquisitions, the amount of public companies is actually shrinking. Just interesting thing that would never recognize.
Publicly traded companies are a funny thing. Like I find it interesting that well, that's another story for another day because we're out of time,
Yes, so we've
unfortunately.
opened up so
Well,
many
thank you,
doors.
everybody. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That was Pandora's box right there because I was just about to go into a whole thing about publicly traded companies, and then I'm like, that not time, place, time, not it. So, yeah, stop. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Join us every week at the same time, at the same place to get your business questions answered. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below and we will get to them in a subsequent week. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Nate, any final words?
You know what? I think this was one
Bye.
of the most important discussions we've had so far. And I see that we've opened up about 20 other topics. So send us your questions, but we got plenty of really important stuff to talk about. But we really want to be
We'll,
responsive and
we'll never run
helpful.
out of
And
things to talk about.
oh,
Trust
I
us.
know, but our success is our listeners' success. And at the end of the day, we want to be responsive and helpful. So please, we can keep talking, but we want to answer. Leave your questions.
Yes, for sure. Please. All right, guys.